Female genital mutilation, FGM, stands at only 1.4% in Uganda. But among the communities that practice it, it is above 90%. But what is FGM? As a young girl, Jane Francis Kuka was curious about just what exactly happened.
I witnessed the circumcision of girls. It was not easy, but I had to make a hole where I saw, because they construct a shelter round. But I peeped and I saw when they were cutting the girls, what I saw was the chopping of the clitoris, which they threw it down. It started jumping. Then the surgeon got some yeast. This was millet flour. Poured there quickly, and I think this one was to stop the blood from, you see, traditionally, there was no other medicine. So that one, after putting that, then the blood stopped. From that time, I ran to my mother. I asked her, "Mommy, what I have seen is terrible. Will I go through that process?"
What Jane Francis witnessed was the rite of passage from being a girl to becoming a woman. The girls that undergo FGM are typically between the age of 12 to 19, but as young as 8 among some communities.
I've interacted with very many elders from Sebei sub-region and Pokot sub-region, whom I've asked the question always, when did FGM start? And nobody will give you a definite answer when FGM started.
The belief is that FGM originates in the Ethiopian highlands and that it came with the Sabini and other Nilotic groups as they migrated southwards. But regardless of the origin and times of FGM, the tradition seems to have started for purely selfish reasons.
The men used to go for expeditions, for raids, and took a little bit of time. In fact, I was told that some of them could even go for 2-3 years. So, but when they reached home, they found that the women who had remained behind for reasons which could not be avoided had already had a relationship with the men who are left behind to protect the villages.
Though the men are more present now and do not go out on long expeditions, the practice has persisted. The communities that practice FGM are found on the slopes of Mountain Elgon among the Sabini and Sebei, and among the Kadama, Tipeth, and Pokot. Among the Sebei, the circumcision night was one of high emotions.
I went through it when I was like 16 years. I was just very young. And that time it was something that was automatic, that you have to go through it. And girls really enjoyed it. Like you go in, you get a uniform, you just decorate yourself very well, and you just go there joyously.
The excitement came from the pomp of the ceremony and significance of the event.
If you now participated well, they now put a basket here for the clan members, the aunties, the neighbors, to put at least something good collection. Maybe it is a profit now for the people to enjoy that our daughter has got money, has got cows, or about what.
The girls that successfully underwent the circumcision received recognition and brought pride to their family. The circumciser's knife is what defined a woman among the Sabini, Tipeth, and Pokot. As brave or as a coward, as clean or as impure, as marriage-worthy or not. It defined the status and place of the woman in society, with the female circumcisers commanding the highest respect, status, and wealth.
I used to make 2 million shillings during the cutting season. On top of that, I would be given clothes, cows, and hens.
For the girls that avoided FGM, life was harsh.
Whenever my husband would go to drink, his friends would insult him, asking him why he is still staying with a girl. Whenever he came back home drunk, he would kick the door, calling me a girl. And that is how I decided to go for it.
But FGM hurts girls and women.
Female genital mutilation is a very painful and awful practice that is done against girls. It is something that is not acceptable because it violates a girl's body, her right to a healthy body, but it also violates her basic human right and her dignity. It is not a practice of our time, and it is an infringement on a girl's basic human right.
But things were about to change. The campaign to end FGM was started by a daughter of the soil, Jane Francis Kuka, when she was the Minister of State for Gender and Culture Affairs.
1997, there was no FGM in the whole Sabay region. Nobody was cut. Then 1998, I even went up to USA press conference where I talked. I formed an association, USA, Uganda God Parents Association. We educated the girls free. About 30 girls were educated free to come back and educate the others. Our Elder Association even got an award from UN, and they were given a prize which they constructed their office for Elders Office. From that time, I think the campaign went on.
But there was a threat to the campaign.
UNFPA said they are pulling out of funding because government is not responding. They've been funding the campaign for several years. Then they said now we are pulling out because your government is not interested. So I said now we cannot allow this fight to just collapse. I arranged for a meeting with the president, with the leaders of Kapchorwa, the practitioners and the advocates for ending the campaign. We had a very long meeting in State House. That day, actually, the president was supposed to leave for Libya for the OAU meeting. But after he had seen the instruments they used, because we carried the stones, we carried the knives, we carried some sick people and said these are people who have suffered out of FGM. So he said, no, I think let me cancel my journey. We were supposed to go to Amudat to launch the campaign. He said, let me go with you to Amudat, and we launched the campaign. So on July 1st, 2009, we went to the Kenya-Uganda border, where we officially launched the national campaign against FGM.
With the active involvement of not just the government, but the president in the anti-FGM campaign, it gained momentum. Soon, FGM would become an act against the law. In 2010, the Prohibition of Female Genital Mutilation Act 2010 was passed, making it illegal to continue the cultural practice. Dora Byamukama, a lawyer and an anti-FGM advocate, was among those that spearheaded the change in the law.
We started this work in 1989, and I had just finished my course at the Law Development Center. And at that time, FIDA was very active, and I was part of FIDA. And then at this particular point in time, actually, the district of Kapchorwa had passed a bylaw or an ordinance whereby they were supporting the female genital mutilation. And the Ministry of Gender, led by Joyce Mpanga at that time, was trying very much to stop the practice. And over time, we realized that we had to be closer to the people, get activists from within, like Honorable Francis Kuka, like the late Honorable Mr. Cheborion of the Sabini Elders Association. So we realized that we had to work with the people to get them to understand the issue of FGM. So when we talk about 2010, it's as if it was just like we woke up one morning and we came up with a law. No, it's been a protracted, long struggle, over 20 years of work on this particular issue.
The law appeared harsh, making a previously accepted cultural practice punishable with imprisonment of up to 10 years. However, the severity of the law must be put in perspective of the burden carried by the women that undergo FGM.
For example, you can have vesicovaginal fistula where the urine will just pass by the vaginal orifice and then it drips down. So sometimes that one you can have what we call incontinence, uncontrolled flow of urine via the birth canal or the vaginal opening. So this one sometimes it causes a lot of stigma. If someone is actually having that case, you know how it looks like. First of all, even the community members will disassociate from you. They will feel you are looking smelly, you are unfit to be in that community. And most of them actually will develop psychological trauma.
The law also provides for the subtle social behaviors that promote FGM.
One of them was the one that criminalizes stigmatization of families that have not undertaken that right. There was so much peer pressure. You go to the well, they say, "Go, you're a woman, you're a girl, you go back to the queue. Let the women collect water, you will come last." So one of those clauses was to criminalize that kind of conduct. The men were also, the husbands who were not circumcised were also being harassed. So I think that's one of those that has been effective.
The article on the convicts was written by David Mafabi. He is a reporter with the Daily Monitor newspaper, and he has written extensively about female genital mutilation in Uganda. He offers an explanation as to why, even with the iron hand of the law, female genital mutilation, FGM, continues among the practicing communities.
For them, they see it as their identity, the only thing that can identify them. They view it as something that is so important in terms of culture, and they don't want to break away from it. I remember one time I did a story in Buka sub-region where I went and I was interviewing a family about FGM. Immediately I reached the family, the man had heard about the law. He asked me, are the people who are bringing this new law about FGM? Even when I told him no, they chased me and stoned me until I ran out of the home.
The cultural sensitivity of the matter makes it all the more complex to handle. For example, after FGM surgeons were imprisoned, community elders gathered to lobby for their release and got what they wanted. The president pardoned them, but this was to be the last time. This sensitivity is especially high for people campaigning against FGM from the practicing communities. The price paid in the form of ostracism is high.
In 1996, when I stood again, I went through, people had known the harmfulness of FGM. So when I became an MP, straight away I was made the Minister of State for Gender and Cultural Affairs, where I decampaigned FGM seriously. 2001, I wanted to stand again, I failed. They said, Madam Coker, you went, you decampaigned our culture, we are not giving you a vote.
With not just the threat of the law, but with the biting law, the survival of this now illegal cultural practice continues, but behind closed doors, away from the scrutiny of the authorities. One may ask, doesn't this simply make a bad situation worse?
The practice has gone underground. It's no longer being done openly. It has gone underground, and why underground and where? It is being done sometimes during childbirth. And the reason why they are doing that is because of the harassment and of these old ladies that telling you that you are not a woman. Even if you are 30, 25 years, they tell you you are still a child because you have not undergone the practice.
UNFPA, as one of the agencies involved in bringing this harmful practice to an end, employs an approach that builds on the law to touch the hearts and minds of the community. An example of this is working with the local institutions such as the church.
The church has been taking the lead of educating girls. And you will find that the educated girls, if any, very few, but majority of them are rejected taking the FGM.
We need to really intensify these measures. We need to move much faster, which means that we have to be working or continue to work closer with the communities in the field. The second thing is that we need to create demand for services, demand for protection and demand for legal recourse, since there is a legal framework against female genital mutilation. So we really need to step up those efforts. And last but not least, really work with the authorities in Kenya, so that on both sides it is not something where people and communities know that it is illegal in Uganda and then they migrate over the mountains or over the border to go and do it in Kenya. So these are the three most important things that we will continue to work on. I would also like to mention that we cannot do this without strong political support and commitment, and I'm very proud that in Uganda that has been secured over many years with champions at the most senior political level that are speaking up and speaking out against this practice, and that is why we have that enabling environment that is really stemming from a strong political commitment.
The impact of UNFPA's partnerships with the media in documenting and exposing the harmful practice has proved positive.
It has done so well in Sebei sub-region, especially Kweni, Buko, and Kapchora districts, because the FGM numbers are going down daily. Before 2010, the FGM numbers were so high, but after 2010, the FGM numbers are now dropping day by day.
To change the future, especially when the change requires breaking from tradition, requires the involvement of the youth, young people with different ideas and worldviews. UNFPA is supporting the Kapchora Active Youth Association in its goal of causing change.
Actually, there is a battle now between the young generation, the .com world, and the old generation. The old generation say it must continue. Now, when we go out to tell them that no, this thing is no longer useful to us, let's end it, there is a lot of resistance, and they want to make us believe that we are the lost children of the soil because we are denouncing the culture.
But culture is not a static thing; it is dynamic, and with the passage of time comes change. For the communities from Kapchora and Karamoja that still practice FGM, the change is now. As the older generation hang on to the ways of the past, the youth look to the future with an open mind, aspiring for a new order in which they have a say and in which they question the status quo. In a day when being a woman is not earned through the mutilation of a girl's genitalia,